Welcome to the Dan Stevens Show. For the viewers and listeners, I do have a punch bag in the chair beside me. It's not some sort of publicity stunt or something. It's just like, it was here. It was kind of in the way. And I said I wanted to fill the seat. So, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, punch bag. This is probably one of the only times where this picture makes sense. You know, all the people do it after MMA fights and young lads out on the town, don't they? You have to get the watch showing them, especially. I'm with a famous boxer. Look. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. If there's any moments of frustration, it will be handy to have the punch bag there. So yeah, he's there today on today's episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a incident that happened with a traveller mother and daughter at halftime of a comedy show last night. I'll also be talking about a encounter I had with a great white shark enthusiast. And these stories are linked. It's crazy. It's kind of explicable how they're linked, not inexplicable. Explainable, I don't know. I just want to say a big thank you, by the way, to Mick Burke, who bought coffees. Absolute legend. It's the second time he's done it. Old friend of mine. We go way back. Very supportive. And thanks to, we got a new subscriber on YouTube, Liz Ard. I was like, what the hell? Lizard. It's a lizard. So yeah, there's that. And then please, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like and share. And if you're on Spotify, Apple, just give a good rating and give a follow, please. That would be great. Anyway, I'll start off by what happened last night. I'm performing at Institches Comedy Club in Dublin City. Had a great set. Really went well. I was on before the end of the first half. So straight after I'm finished, it's a break. So I'm walking off stage. I'd recorded it on my camera. I'm getting the camera. And a lady probably in her 50s, I would say, and her daughter, two very glamorous women, approached me. And they were members of the travelling community. I could just tell. And that's not me being critical or what's the word? I'm not discriminating, but it's a particular accent, and I like it. I like the travellers. I like the travelling community. Very fun, mystical. They have their culture and they stick to it. I like that these days in the face of technology and conformity. I like groups of people that stick to their ways as much as they can. So anyway, she comes up to me, and the older lady, and the younger woman was absolutely gorgeous looking, by the way. It's just stunning. And the mother was very glamorous. Two blonde women. So she approaches me and goes, "You made me cry. You made me cry." With laughter. With laughter, her daughter says. She's like, yeah. And the older lady says, "You're talking about Jaws there." Because I was telling the story about the encounter I had with the Jaws fanatic last night, trying to turn it into a stand-up comedy bit. And she's like, "The Jaws bit there." She said, "You remind me of my uncle Jaws' Maughan." I was like, Jaws' Maughan? I was like, no way. And it didn't strike me at that time that I was being compared to an old traveller man that's probably dead now. I was like, what, did he love that movie or what as well? Because I'm a big fan of Jaws. And she says, "I won't tell you." She says, "I won't tell you why he was called that." I was like, I'm still not any the wiser. But I didn't want to take the conversation to that next level of... She obviously didn't want to tell me why he was called Jaws' Maughan. But maybe he had a good jawline. I don't know, maybe he was a fan of ecstasy. I just don't know. But it wasn't because he was a fan of Jaws. So, and I didn't want to probe and go, is it because he liked Jaws or because I remind you of a early 1900s travelling man? Usually people say Brendan Grace or something, or I got Brock Lesnar as well recently. That was lovely. That was lovely. Yeah. Bit of Brock Lesnar there, what? Jaws is man. Um. So yeah, that was nice to hear. And they said, "You are probably our favourite." And I was like, thanks very much, lovely people. Yeah, I have a definitely have a soft spot for the travelling community. And I wasn't insulted, by the way. I wasn't insulted to be compared to Jazz's. Uh, Not at all. I never really felt that stigma. Or I don't know. Is there a stigma? I had a There was a young traveller in my class in school who had a permanently runny nose. He was one of two lads in my class that had a runny nose all the time. And I remember someone asked him. Nobody would mess with this guy because he was a traveller, and travellers are known to be good fighters. But permanently runny nose, and I remember someone plucked up the courage one day, one of my classmates, to ask him, "Why is your nose running all the time?" And he just goes, "I was born with a cold." Can't argue with that. Great answer. Great answer. Anyway, that's besides the point. So anyway, this story, I have a couple of items with me as well. I'm gonna keep this nice and snappy. The solo episode. I think I've realised doing these solo episodes, you need to have something funny to say or something unusual. Nobody wants to hear anyone on their own talking about themselves, about mundane stuff. And I don't want to see people doing that. I wouldn't watch someone on YouTube doing that. Some boring fucker like. So anyway, what had happened was, and this is just a story that I reckon might be interesting to people because I felt very strong emotions from it. So if something like that happens to me, pass it on. So here we are. So basically we matched on Bumble about 5 or 6 years ago. It was just, I think it might have been early 2020 actually. Just before COVID. Maybe late 2019. And she was she had a beautiful face. That's all I could see in the picture. A beautiful face. And in the bio it was huge fan of Jaws, the movie. I remember thinking to myself straight away, I was like, Jesus, this could be it. In my 1-bedroom apartment, looking around thinking, Jesus, if this works out, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Anyway, we had one date, and I don't know what was going through my head at the time. I'm not great at dating in general. I've been single all my life, really. I'm 37. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's just the way the cookie has crumbled. And I was in a long-term relationship twice, maybe. I say long-term, a few months. One lasted almost a year, and that was in Australia. But for 9 months of that, we lived 1,000 miles apart and didn't see each other. And then it was a month and a half either end of that. And in the second end of that, she broke up with me because I was going back to Ireland. So it wasn't really a relationship at all. Anyway, maybe it's that I don't have the right. I have a feeling it could be that I don't have the right amount of filter on the first day, and I just go into too extreme. I don't know when to hold back, or maybe I should think a bit more, or something like that. It must be. You know what I mean? So anyway, met up, and I'm excited. Very excited. We go to a restaurant. Her name is Ellen, which is Chief Brody's wife's name in the movie Jaws. I was like, oh. Now I'd be more of a Quint, I think, in my nature. I wouldn't be able to be Chief Brody, policeman, upholding the law. I'd be Quint. So, I was always heartbroken when I watched that. Hundreds of times I watched that when I was younger. When he got bitten in half and eaten by the shark. Heartbroken. So, we meet up, and I think I was very full on. It was, her birthday was coming up. She was just as attractive in person. I didn't get catfished. Physically. Catfished. I would just, don't even go there. Another type of fish, huh? Anyway, we get to chat, we get on well, and she tells me it's her birthday. She tells me her birthday is coming up, and I'm like, oh, that's a hint. And we'd verbally agreed on a second day. Has that ever happened to you? You verbally agree on a second day, and then you just get blanked then. So we'd verbally agreed on a second day, which is, I'm a fan of doing that. Dating. I haven't dated in a while, but I'd be a fan, of doing that. Getting the verbal agreement. Like a gentleman's agreement, And then you'll get a follow-up. Usually. But she didn't even give me a follow-up. But I knew it was her birthday, so I ordered her a scarf and a t-shirt, a tie-dye Jaws t-shirt. I think it's called tie-dye. I don't know why. Anyway, the whole reason this experience resurfaced, the whole reason this breached for me, this experience resurfaced, was because I was rustling through my wardrobes the other day looking for a jacket, and I found these. So for the listeners or the visually impaired, I have the Jaws t-shirt here. Doesn't fit me, obviously. She was it's a medium, so she was imagine it was a double XL. You'd be I wouldn't mind that. I'm just saying, it'd be funny, wouldn't it? Triple XL, quadruple XL. Oh, she was lovely, yeah. Quadruple XL t-shirt. Anyway, she could be still. I'm just saying. And there's the scarf. And I don't know if you can see that, but the letter E is on it because her name is, and probably still is, Ellen. So, yeah, Radio Silence was, there was no sequel. There's an E on it. Look, it's so thoughtful. E. So I don't know why I still have these. I suppose I'm looking for a woman now who's a big fan of Jaws and whose name starts with the letter E. That's what I'm looking for, alright? Maybe someone who loves ecstasy. Jeez, it's after opening up. Hey, sus. Top notch. Anyway, anyone whose name, I don't know. I think I briefly met an Emily since, but I didn't think of giving that to her. I think she ignored me pretty quick too. Anyway, that's enough of that. That's why he's there. Only messing. So, that's that story, yeah. Jaws is Maughan. Whoever you are, I wouldn't say he's around anymore, but God bless him. It was nice for that family that I brought some memories back to them. Yeah. Big time respect for the travelling community. And I'm not just saying that so I'm not, so it doesn't sound like I'm being discriminatory. I just generally do. I have a gra for the travelling community. Yeah, even though they did, if you look back, there's an episode, I talked about it before. I told this story before, but when I worked with my dad, and I won't be going too long on this episode, but I'm just going to recap that story. Was that me and my dad, electricians, were clearing all the data cable out of an old office block in Monkstown in Dublin, and I'm throwing it out the top window of the office block. There's only 2 stories. I'm throwing it out the top window. My dad's throwing it into the van. And there is a gated entry to the office block. A large Hi-Ace parks outside it. And a lad walks in. Hardy looking fella. Probably in his late 40s. Looked like he'd had a few scraps. So he tries to buy the scrap cable off my dad. It was Cat 6 cable. Or Cat 5 cable, which is computer cable. So he's offering my dad €100, I think it was. He said to my dad first, he goes, Much for the cable. My dad's like, it's not for sale, he says. No, I can't give it to you. But my dad kind of stumbled a bit, you know, and I legged it down then with a hammer. I saw what they were doing. I could see the van blocking the gate, but my dad couldn't see it, you know. So I came down with the hammer. Next thing, another fellow comes out with a van, so it's 2 on 2. And he offers my dad 100. My dad's like, no, I'm not taking it. And then he kind of forces it towards me dad. And I come out then with the hammer. I said, don't take it, Dad. Don't take it. That's probably counterfeit. Your man loses his shit. Your man's like, hey, dribble him out. Dribble him out. You're not the boss here. You're not the boss. I'm dealing with Specky Four Eyes here. You stay out of this dribbly mouth. Calling me dribbly mouth. I wasn't even dribbling. And he calling me Dad, Specky Four Eyes. You know what I mean? I said, don't give it to him, Dad. Don't give it to him. And eventually, they backed off. They threatened us on the way out, though. They said, we're going to follow you when you leave here. We're going to follow you. Because there was cameras in the courtyard of where we were. We're going to follow you. So we packed up that van with the cable. Your man had offered £100. I was like, don't take it. It was packed into the back of my van. I went straight to the scrap with it and got 60. So we lost out on £40 basically. Unless it was fake money, but I don't think it was, to be honest. I think I was just being a bit paranoid. But yeah, you'll I don't know. I don't know if I told it the exact same way back in the original episode of Dribbly Mouth and Specky Four Eyes, but 2 good old insults there. They're great men for the insults travelling community. I remember actually the Travellers had a GAA team called Christopher Gales. Jesus Christ, I remember we played against them. I was only 12 or 13 at the time, but Aaron Gabra, the GAA team, Gaelic football team that my dad and a few of his brothers founded back in the 80s. This would have been late 90s, early 2000s. Went out to play Christopher Gales. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but my uncle was in his probably late 30s at the time, and my brother was about 18 or 19, and he was playing in goals. My brother's a big fella, big stout fella. My uncle, about 5'9", 5'10", well built. He had a special move. He was in his late 30s. He was not great to say this, but my Uncle Al, I used to love watching him play Gaelic football because of the violence. And I know it's, I can look back on it now and say, wow, it was out of order. But back then, I used to just go to these Aaron Gabra matches and I just watched the fights. It was just amazing. But we went out to Christopher Gales to play them, and my brother caught the ball. I'll just tell you as well at this time, sorry, but my Uncle Al, he had a special move. He used to play full back. So basically what happens is in Gaelic football, as you get older and bigger and less fit, you move more into the centre and towards the goals. So you start off as a fit midfielder basically, or wing forward, wing back, and then you just move towards the goals so you can execute your limited skills that you have. And the the skills that you've retained and the limited mobility makes allowances for you to be able to do things near the goal that are beneficial to the team. And my uncle's special moves, he'd be marking these guys. Like my uncle was in his late 30s, early 40s even, my Uncle Al. And very hardy. He had a special move called the clamp. And I've seen it in action a couple of times. Like whenever Aaron Gabra would go out to the south side to play teams like Kilmacud or teams from the south side with big fit lads, big rugby style lads, but they wouldn't be hardy like Al would. I remember seeing him giving a fella the clamp one day, and Jesus, your man was about 6'4", and I just see Al's arm going up, totally off the ball. The ball's at the other end of the pitch, but Al was trying to gain a physical and psychological edge. So the clamp was he grabbed them around the mouth and squeezed their mouth together and wrap his hand around and then just get them to the ground like Mick Foley kind of, you know, just get them kind of it was like a slow motion choke slam, and then just kind of suffocate them, and then whenever the ball was coming back down, then he'd let go and the ref wouldn't know what happened. Terrible. These people were probably psychologically scarred. So there was the clamp and then there was the claw. The claw, he'd put his hand into their mouth, he grabbed her like over their bottom row teeth and under their chin. Terrifying, I know. And he'd do the same. He'd kind of couple of digs with the left arm, and then he'd be doing the clamp or the claw, depending on what suited better, with the right arm. This particular day, Christopher Gales, Traveller Gaelic football team, we went out to play them, and the lads thought they were hard, you know, like the Aaron Gabra, but like my brother David caught the ball, he got shouldered into the net, back of the net. Alan came in, hit your man one and gave some fella a box, and then it just 10 or 11 Travellers came in. Fucking, there was a massive row. It got separated. Next thing, one of them, boom, knocks out the referee. All hell breaks loose. The referee's on the ground. We get chased out. I'm 12 at the time. I'm loving this. I'm 11 or 12, you know. 20 years ago. 25 years ago. There's mayhem. And we all have to just escape for our lives. Run for our lives out of that place. Match was abandoned. But my God. There's always a bigger fish. That's what I'm saying. So as much as this Blanchardstown club could go to places on the south side, or places that were at the same level and have a good scrap, you come up against Christopher Gales, the Travellers, forget about it. They're winning that fight. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah. Good story. Al is my uncle. We loved him. He's the cool uncle. The cool uncle. He left a comment actually on a clip. How are you, Al? And thanks to everybody who's been interacting, by the way, as well, on Spotify, on YouTube, on the clips and everything. I tried to pick the right clips to put out there to try and promote the podcast, but the main thing is that you are enjoying it and I'm enjoying it. So I want to thank you for listening and watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll be back with Dylan McDonough, so talk to you soon. And by the way, don't worry, there's more guests coming as well. We'll be mixing it up very soon. I just need to get the rhythm going and all that, but other than that, talk to you soon. Jaws is Maughan, if you're out there, top class man. Also, any woman who's big fan of Jaws, whose name starts with the letter E, there you go. I'm not picky. I just need big fan of Jaws, whose name starts with the letter E and who's a medium. Not a psychic. Alright, see you next time.